thank you very much for the invitation to speak. Open access is obviously a very important aspect of information dissemination, which is the heart of research. And I'll share my slides in a moment. But what I would like to say is that Wikipedia, that I'm going to talk about, is really made extraordinary inroads into the dissemination of knowledge. And there's a group amongst Wikipedia who are making the download access to that information for third world countries free of charge. So it's really has that as its mission. So I will share my slides. Just get that into slideshow mode. So my current title, which has changed many times over the last 17 years that I've been working at Notre Dame, is the academic lead of the new title, which is Medical Research and Innovation Domain. And that domain is responsible for educating medical students in the whole process of research and dissemination of information, but also the creation of evidence that they will use in clinical practice. So my sort of mission is to ensure that students who graduate from the School of Medicine at Notre Dame have the skills to critically analyse, but also to participate in the development of new knowledge. And one way of doing this is through Wikipedia as a community encyclopedia. So, as the title says, I'm going to focus on the community aspect of the Wikipedia encyclopedia, but I'm also going to focus particularly on Wiki Project Medicine, which is a subset of the main Wikipedia conglomerate. So I'll focus on the concepts of open access and what it means and contrast it with traditional publications and peer review process, but also the social service that we try to encourage students to recognise that if they participate in the development of Wiki Project Medicine information, that they are in actual fact doing a social service. So Wikipedia is a starting place for research, but a starting point for deeper learning and research literacy. And this is why I've included it as the orientation task for medical students. We have a lot of perplexed first years who wonder why I'm teaching them about Wikipedia, and we know that Wikipedia is often thought of as a place that's not a good source of information. Indeed, when I ask classes how many people have been told not to use Wikipedia as a reference source, 99.9% of the class will put their hands up. So it's true that in 2010, the content of Wikipedia articles was not readily verifiable. So it did gain a reputation for being a poor quality resource, but it's a living resource, it's dynamic, and so a lot has changed. And indeed, it is now the largest open access online encyclopedia for a whole range of information. And it began with articles written in English, but now there are 45 million articles on Wikipedia that can be accessed in over 300 different languages. So one of the things that I encourage students to do who are bilingual or multilingual is to do a service contribution by translating some of the pages in Wiki Project Medicine. The other thing that they can do in the training is to even correct the grammar or the clarity of articles written in English. And that means that when people go to translate it, they've got a better starting place. So it doesn't matter how small or how large contribution students make, it is actually important and of service to the rest of the community. So one of the criticisms about the information on Wikipedia is that it's written by volunteers. And people go, well, how do we know if they're not experts in the field? But we'll discuss that in a minute about who is an expert and why that should be important. So volunteers, they're not paid, they don't have any vested interest in doing this activity. The editorial platform is also done by volunteers. It's part of the community, and there's the front page of Wikipedia, but there's also the behind pages where there's something called a sandbox where people can make comments, and there's a conversation, a dynamic conversation that goes on around the content and editing of those Wikipedia pages. But there are rules. So people need a little bit of training to be able to contribute, especially to Wiki Project Medicine, so that the data, the information that you put into the Wikipedia pages needs to be verifiable. And so they do that usually by asking people to refer to secondary sources, so meta-analyses and systematic reviews. So primary articles are rarely referenced in the Wikipedia pages. The facts and their interpretation should be accompanied by a citation to a reliable source that verifies them. And since the inception, 500 million people per month use Wikipedia as their first place to begin research. Now, if we're talking about research impact, that's huge. And it means, I think, that we think about the Excellence in Research Australia, the new rules that are coming out are more interested in impact as well as citations. You can't dismiss the impact that a contribution to Wikipedia will have in a very short period of time. And not only that, but you can see the impact through the statistics page, the number of views, the number of users. You can see whether or not your contribution has been edited or changed. So there is evidence supporting impact on every Wikipedia page and every contribution that you make, because your username is identifiable, and you can, there are statistics on who's writing, who's changing, and so forth. So it's a source of great impact. And there are some people who've written an article and published it, may have had 3 reads, 2 citations in 4 years or something. Whereas if you make a contribution to Wikipedia, you're reaching an audience of maybe 500 million people per month. So given the high readership numbers, publications accessible via Wikipedia have a significant opportunity for exposure and dissemination. And Wikipedia has a lot of sister platforms. So there's a wiki database and there's a wiki journal for medical publications. So if you publish in the Wikipedia journal, it is going to be linked to the Wikipedia page. So that's another way of getting high impact. So this is an important piece of information for a platform, for students to understand, given a platform that over the years they've been told not to use. It's not credible, it's not scientific, and yet there is so much potential. So I learned about Wikipedia really many years ago. My colleague in San Francisco at UCLSF, Amin Azam, and I met with him, and he was running an elective unit for medical students on writing Wikipedia pages. And this came about because he was saying to his students, please don't use Wikipedia as your source. And they came to him and said, well, we're going to, we all do. And he said, well, I'm going to go with this and work on it. So he was the first university group to start training his students to become Wikipedians and to write contributions to Wikipedia pages. University of Notre Dame Fremantle, under me, was the second university in the world to do this, and I did it differently. I trained all of our first year students and have been doing for the last, I don't know, 7 years. So I've had 100 students over 7 years, all being trained to be Wikipedians for the Wiki Project pages, Wiki Project Medicine pages. There are now, I think, about 20 that we know of, medicine, dentistry, and other health-related courses, including or integrating Wikipedia training for their students. And we've written an article about that. I'm sure there's many more that we are not aware of, but we've had some contact with these people. So the volunteers are responsible for writing, editing, publishing content on the platform, and it's powered by a very robust collaboration software used in public enterprise and other personal wikis. And there are about 41.4 million registered users on the English Wikipedia, with contributors coming from a range of backgrounds. So why do people do this? Well, studies have shown that their desire to share knowledge is a big one. The belief that information should be free and thoroughly open access, the enjoyment of contributing, and some also cite professional reasons for their involvement. My ambition is to get all our retired medical doctors who've got great English skills, the traditional English skills, to get on and become Wikipedians and share their knowledge as well. This graph, this figure that you can see, not very clearly, but it shows the level of quality. So there's some quality assurance around the Wikipedia articles, and the largest bar is low quality. So they have various quality assurance techniques to check the articles, and they rank them. And so the Wikipedians in the background ensuring quality via these mechanisms. So let's just think about it. What's the alternative? We think that peer-reviewed journals are the best source of information, but are they really? I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with a group called Retraction Watch. Down the bottom of the slide, I have the link to them. They are another group of volunteers who are actually working to identify and record and publicise the retractions that are made from big publishing houses. So if I can just see the top of my slide, there are individual authors who have had like 42 papers retracted just in the last, since last September 2024. Springer Nature Journal has retracted over 200 papers because of compromised peer review, inappropriate or irrelevant references, and nonsensical phrases suggesting blind use of AI and machine translation software. There are professors at Stanford, or a single professor who has had multiple papers rejected, and now they're going through the stages of being their work, they're being not allowed to do their research. But the problem is, and we can go on and on about, there's another one here, a former Columbia University psychiatrist has actually committed research misconduct, engaged in research by recklessly, falsely reporting that all human research subjects met inclusion and exclusion criteria for late life depression studies. Goes on and on and on. There are hundreds and thousands of papers being retracted month by month. The COVID period saw huge numbers of papers being retracted. I started off one of my journal article review workshops with a paper for students to see that years ago, a paper on the genetic basis of Alzheimer's disease has now been retracted through falsified data, manipulated genetic sort of images, genome images. Now, the problem with that is there's been millions of dollars of NIH grant funding based on those original papers. There's been thousands of citations of those papers. So that whole research enterprise is built on a house of cards. So, you know, are our peer-reviewed approaches to verifying, you know, journal quality, is that really real? And this is really important because this is the evidence on which our clinical practices, particularly in medicine, are based. So I need to open the students' eyes because they tend to believe whatever's in a good journal. And, you know, Lancet and Nature, they're not immune from this. So one of the interesting things that was picked up just by an individual, and on this first image here, which is a bit blurry, but it's somebody's Twitter account, and they say, so ChatGPT wrote the first sentence of this Elsevier Connect article. Any other parts of the article too? How come none of the co-authors, editor-in-chief, reviewers, typesetters, how come they didn't notice? How can this happen with regular peer review? And you can see, hopefully, that the first line of the introduction of this paper says, certainly, here is a possible introduction for your topic. And that's what you get when you ask, please, ChatGPT, give me some advice. So we're dependent on individuals picking up some of these problems, but now there are people devoted to it. The Frontiers Journal article have taken a different approach. Frontiers is absolutely open access, prides itself on that. It has a very open community-based review system as well. So I've been participating as a reviewer. Now, this article, Redefining Medical Education, Harnessing the Power of Patient Feedback. I am listed here in the circle with my face as a reviewer. I know that I was the only reviewer of that paper because they were communicating with me asking, do you know anyone else will do it? I asked for lots of edits. The authors did that, and now it's published. But that responsibility is now on me. So if somebody else reads that article, they will see that I was the editor, I was the reviewer. The person above me is the editor. So is that appropriate that me as a single volunteer has to carry the can if I've made a mistake? So what I'm saying is that the beauty of something like Wikipedia is that it is a living community-based review system and completely transparent and open access. So I found this article very useful. It's by Sabaya, The Next Generation of Evidence-Based Medicine. And it says, you know, like, where do we find the best evidence? How do we integrate and critically appraise so much data over time? How do we know if the same evidence is applicable to all people? And how can we evaluate the application of evidence to find out if it's the best? So this author created this article. It's an iceberg, and I will unpack that in the next slide. So basically, the tip of the iceberg is what we know as how we generate evidence for our health professions and so on. And the culmination in the systematic reviews, and we've got RCTs in the middle there. The main problem, though, is conducting RCTs and all these studies. They're expensive, they take a long time, they have a lot of dropout, they're very scientific method. It's supposed to be exacting, it's searching for the truth, and so on and so forth. But it's not possible to gather all the information. So these authors are suggesting that the part of the iceberg that we don't see is all of this information in databases. So we have personalization of information, and we have deep learning. So we can now access and integrate information from so many different resources through artificial intelligence algorithms. So Wikipedia is one source of that. And there's something called Wikidata that collects all the metadata and all of the information behind the Wikipedia pages. And it is in actual fact accessed by a lot of these deep learning algorithms in order to contribute. So the author of this article is suggesting that our artificial algorithms need to gather information from individuals, so like wearable technology, biosensors, all of the laboratory data, the positive results as well as the negative results, as well as all the population and epidemiological data from images and so forth, to integrate that in order to get a much clearer position of what the evidence really is. And in this way, we can also accommodate different cultural groups, different socioeconomic strata, and so on and so forth. Because at the moment, we know that a lot of the old basic research was done on men, and whether or not it's applicable to women, let alone women in Saudi Arabia versus Nigeria. So this is very interesting. So just a few minutes, hopefully I'm not taking too much time. The Wikipedia Medicine Project is specific. Its aim is to promote, develop and distribute healthcare content on Wikipedia projects. It persuades individual experts and professional and scholarly organisations to review and contribute to Wikimedia medical content, and provides potential contributors with necessary support and training. So it also aims to create, collect, process and present the sorts of metrics which describe usage statistics and quality of health content on Wikipedia projects. So this is the training that all of our students get in their first week of medicine. And you can see from the access, the estimated access of Wikipedia project medicine pages over time in this figure. We've got millions of page views on the vertical axis. On the horizontal axis, we can see that we've got data every 3 months. We can see the spike here in 2020, and this was attributable to the COVID information being disseminated. And Wikipedia was a great source for that information. So this has great impact, and people are using it a lot. So according to a review written by a Wikipedia contributor, Wikipedia is among the world's most accessed resources for health information by the public, by patients, by students and practitioners, and therefore it's really important for our medical students to know about. The relevance to medical students, well, it plays a significant role in the dissemination of medical knowledge worldwide. 200 million people search Wikipedia pages, and patients are informed. They will come to the doctor with information and ask them to verify it. So they're not passive recipients of the, the godlike knowledge base of medical doctors. So medical students in particular rely on Wikipedia as a convenient source of information, and it's important therefore that they have a very good understanding about the origin, quality and relevance of the material included in each of the wiki pages, because it's variable. So they're online, there are these training modules, and in the orientation week we allocate about 6 hours for the Wikipedia activity. So the first step is for the students to go through all of these training modules. They take like 10 minutes each. They're very easy to do. They're very well supported. And even though students grumble and moan and so forth, Taryn will tell us they actually do it and they don't find it difficult. And so I'm just hoping that I plant the seed with these students to then go ahead and sometime in the future have a better understanding and maybe make a contribution. So what has it got to do with social service? It's making any contribution, even if it's checking the grammar or making sure a link isn't broken, has a significant social contribution, as you've just seen, because of the billions of people who access those pages every month. And so the University of Notre Dame recognises the importance of acquiring the skills needed to contribute as well as to consume resources. And I think our medical students come in with a passive learning paradigm based on their earlier education, and I'm trying to shift that into the fact that they're from a very wealthy Western educational system that they don't recognise has so much to offer in other places where they're desperate for information, that they're not as privileged as people in other countries might be. So there are a couple of examples there where people have made, medical students have made contributions, and some in San Francisco, the students there are taking it very seriously. So in summary, Wikipedia has been praised for its enablement of democratisation of knowledge, extent of coverage, unique structure and culture, but it has been criticised for exhibiting systematic bias, particularly gender bias against women and geographical bias against the Global South. And while the reliability was frequently criticised in the 2000s, it really has improved because it's dynamic. And it in actual fact is censored by some national governments, and the articles on breaking news are often accessed as sources for frequently updated information about those events. And sadly, I think one of the most accessed pages for fact-checking is to do with Donald Trump at the moment on Wikipedia. So it's a bit of a litmus test of who's interested in what as well. So thank you very much for your attention, and I will stop sharing there.